Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This time we're going to be looking at the Wolfman from 2010, a remake of the original from 1941 that included Bela Lugosi. The film has Lawrence Talbot, portrayed by Benicio del Toro, who you might know from Star Wars, Guardians of the Galaxy, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and so many more. This film was apparently the first time someone had ever portrayed the character Lawrence Talbot since the original film in 1941. Lawrence's father, John Talbot, is played by Anthony Hopkins, famous for many roles such as Silence of the Lambs, The Mask of Zorro, and Thor's father in the Marvel movies. Inspector Francis Aberline is played by Hugo Weaving. That's right, Agent Smith, or Elrond of Rivendell. Geraldine Chaplin as Maleva, Art Malika as Singh. One other cast member I wanted to mention was David Schofield as the Constable. You might recognize David from the movie American Werewolf in London. And that's not the only tie-in with American Werewolf in London. Special makeup effects artist and actor Rick Baker, who worked in this film, also worked on American Werewolf in London and won an award for his work in both movies. This guy is a legend in makeup effects. He's worked on everything from Star Wars, The Exorcist, the Thriller music video, Batman Forever, Men in Black, so many I can't name them all, but his work is phenomenal. He briefly makes a cameo in this film as the first person to get killed by the Wolfman. Before we fully dive into this werewolf curse and where it came from, today's video is sponsored by Likewise TV. Do you have multiple streaming services? Well, then Likewise TV can help. First off, Likewise is free, which is great, and it's really useful. There's so many streaming services now that almost everyone has more than one, and sometimes I miss out on good shows or movies because I don't check them all. Well, with Likewise you can organize all your favorite shows and movies from multiple platforms in one place. And Likewise will also recommend shows based on your preferences. They have streaming service labels so you can see which service the movie or show is from, and people can leave comments to share with other viewers. Spotlight allows you to see movies or shows being removed from all the services so you can watch them before they go. This free app can really help you make the most of all these services you already pay for. So go to likewisetv.com or click the link in the description to go check it out. And if you like what you see, make your free account. I've also made a few lists of movies if you want to check them out. Thanks to Likewise for sponsoring the video. Benicio del Toro is a huge fan of the original Wolfman film, and has even collected film memorabilia over the years, so when he had the opportunity to be in the remake, he jumped on it. The film received mixed reviews from critics and fans. It was also a bit of a box office bomb, making $142 million on a budget of $150 million, but the film seems to have found a fan base that enjoys it. The score was done by the legendary Danny Elfman, and apparently Gene Simmons from Kiss and David Lee Roth from Van Halen had parts of their voices incorporated into the Wolfman's howl, as well as animal impersonators and opera singers. Now we're going to talk about how the Talbots became werewolves. When Lawrence was young, he lived with his mother, father, and brother. One night he heard some noises and discovered his mother had killed herself for some reason, or at least that's what his dad told him. Not long after this happened, Lawrence was sent away to a mental hospital for a year, then to live with his aunt in America, even though according to him he was fine, and his father did it because he hated him. Years later he has become a successful and famous actor and is working in London at the time. All this time later he never went back to Talbot Hall to see his father, until a woman comes looking for him. It's his brother's wife come to inform him that his brother has been missing for a month and she's worried because there was 2 villagers killed the same night that he went missing. Reluctantly, Lawrence travels to see if there's anything he can do because he loves his brother even if he doesn't get along so well with his father. While on the train to Blackmore, he meets an older man with a wolf head cane made of silver. The head can be pulled off the cane, revealing a dagger-like blade. The older man says it was made in Gévaudan, which is an area of France famous for something known as the Beast of Gévaudan, which many believe was a werewolf. From 1764 to 1767, an unknown beast killed many people. Some estimates as high as 600 attacks and around 500 people killed. Most victims were found with their throats torn out, and the beast was reportedly killed several times before the attacks stopped. Eyewitnesses described seeing a dog or wolf-like creature, so this led to many speculations and werewolf tales. We also heard Gévaudan mentioned in the werewolf movie The Cursed, which I made a video about. So since this man has the cane, he might be aware of the existence of werewolves. He even tries to give it to Lawrence, but he respectfully declines. But shortly after, when he wakes up, the old man left the cane for him. Makes me wonder if this guy knows something that we don't. This scene was actually deleted from the theatrical version, possibly because this man just appears and then we never see him again. Anyway, Lawrence arrives in Blackmore and learns that they discovered his brother's body just a day before he arrived. Lawrence wants to see his brother's body. The man warns him not to, but Lawrence says, "I missed his whole life." He removes the covering over his brother, but is horrified. Later he says to his father, what kind of animal could do that? Lawrence goes through his brother's belongings he had on him, and he finds a kind of medallion. He asks his father about it, and he says his brother Ben was kind of a negotiator between the village people and the gypsies to keep the peace. Lawrence goes to the gypsy camp against his father's wishes to attempt to get some answers about his brother, but while he's there, the camp is attacked by the Wolfman. He tries to save a child from the wolf, but is bitten in the process, beginning his transformation. It's not exactly clear where the Lycanthropy Curse originated from. The man on the train mentions Gévaudan, but John tells his son he became infected with lycanthropy in India. John was an avid hunter and often traveled to hunt exotic animals and big game. He traveled to India and this is what happened. He says lycanthropy. I contracted the disease, if that's what you want to call it, in India, the Hindu Kush mountains. The natives directed me to a cave high up in the mountains where, according to legend, lived a strange creature. And after a great many days of climbing and searching, finally came upon it. I found the cave and the strange creature that lived there. It was a little boy, a wild feral boy, powerfully strong. He suddenly attacked me and bit me, so I returned to my hunting companions below, thinking I had been made the butt of a joke, but he soon discovered otherwise. After traveling back to his home, he turned during a full moon and being unable to control himself, killed his wife. This is actually what Lawrence seen. Not his mother with a razor, but after his father sent him to the asylum, they probably convinced him that that's not really what he's seen. And then his father sent him to live in America because that would be safer. We find out that for 25 years he had his servants Singh lock him up in a crypt so he couldn't harm anyone. Lawrence's brother Ben, who was living in Talbot Hall with him, got married to Gwen, and his father was angry he was moving away because Gwen reminded him of his wife that he had lost and wanted them to stay. John and Ben got into a big argument which led to John drinking and accidentally knocking out Singh. This then led to John not being able to lock himself in the crypt, and when he awoke, he found Ben's body torn to pieces in a ditch. He says he knows now it was a mistake to lock up the beast, showing he's basically lost his mind. The process of becoming a werewolf doesn't happen overnight. After Lawrence is bitten and injured, the gypsies save his life, but one of them says once he is bitten by the beast, there is no cure. You should let him die. There's no sin in killing a beast. But Maleva replies, what about a man? Where does one begin and the other end? He can only be released by someone who loves him. After being bitten, Lawrence is sick and in bed for a week. During the week, he was also having some hallucinations of a small-looking werewolf attacking him, the same one that his father encountered in the mountains in India. This alluding to the fact that he might be the first, or all the werewolves that become cursed have some kind of connection to each other. Lawrence is finally fully awake and gets out of bed about a week later, feeling a bit better. A doctor comes to check on him and is amazed. He says, "A week ago, I would have said you'd never use that arm again, but it seems to have healed itself." The grievous bite wound on his neck has also healed pretty fast considering their medicine at the time. He begins having other strange symptoms as well, such as his sense of hearing becoming much better. He was able to hear horses approaching from an extreme distance and still had a few more hallucinations. The village wants Lawrence dead because they know he was bitten by the beast, and we even see a blacksmith making silver bullets. Earlier, a villager tells a story of how his father encountered some kind of beast, went home, melted down the silver spoons and casted bullets. After that, he never left the house again on a full moon. So the people in this village are quite aware of the stories of werewolves, and the previous residents had run-ins with a beast in the forest, who we now know was probably John, the same night he killed his wife, because after that, he locked himself up. Right after Lawrence is recovering from his bite is when Inspector Aberline arrives in Blackmore. He is investigating Ben's murder and is suspicious that Lawrence may have been the one who murdered his own brother, given he has a strained relationship with his family and has been committed to an asylum when he was younger. But Lawrence doesn't entertain these accusations. One night, Lawrence sees his father walking outside and follows him. He goes to his mother's shrine, and then below, we learn that for 2 decades, John locked himself in this kind of cell that he built under the shrine of his wife. John would lock himself in or have Singh lock him in so that he wouldn't harm anyone in the village. While talking to Lawrence, he locks himself in and says, "The beast will have its day." And when he backs up, we see his eyes glow. showing us that he's not all human. Suddenly, Lawrence begins to turn into a werewolf for the first time, and this transformation looks agonizing with blood and his bones growing and moving into place. We can probably assume that his father was also turning into a werewolf at the same time. He was locked in the other room. Lawrence, on the other hand, is free, and not able to control himself, goes on a rampage, which is exactly what his father wanted. Lawrence must be as strong as Jason, because they can both punch somebody's head off. The transformation really reminded me of American Werewolf in London, which isn't surprising because, like I said, the special makeup effects artist is the same person. Lawrence awakens the next morning covered in blood, unaware of what he has done. His father set him up, called the inspector, and has Lawrence taken back to the asylum again. But John visits Lawrence in the asylum and tells him the story of how he was turned in India and how he accidentally killed Ben. He says there will be a full moon tonight, like he wants him to break out. But then why send him there in the first place? Whatever. Before John leaves, he says, "I have a small gift for you. In the events you don't find life as glorious as I find it to be, or not to be," and then tosses him a straight razor. Then tells Lawrence he loves him, even though that might be hard to believe. Well, that's some tough love. The doctor tries to cure Lawrence with all the greatest medical advancements of the time, aka torture machines basically. Wouldn't want to be mentally ill back then. He also puts on a kind of experiment in front of his peers. He's going to show Lawrence the full moon, and when he doesn't turn into a werewolf, he will have taken the first step into realizing he's in fact not a werewolf. But I think you know what happens. And this is one of my favorite scenes in the film. The CGI isn't the best I've ever seen, but it's the panic and chaos created when everyone is trapped in the room, piled up on the door trying to get out. If only it was a push door. Now, let's take a look at the actual werewolves, their abilities, weaknesses, and if there's really a cure. These werewolves are humans cursed to forcibly turn on every full moon and wreak havoc. Similar to the werewolves from the Van Helsing movie, once you turn, you'd kill your best friend if you got in your way. But they seem to have some level of control as Lawrence is able to momentarily stop himself from killing Gwen. However, Lawrence and his father remember nothing when the night is over and they return to human form. The transformations are quite slow and painful. While in wolf form, Lawrence and his father are extremely strong, but noticeably his father was able to overpower him for the majority of the fight, possibly due to him being a werewolf longer and supernaturals commonly grow stronger with age, or he's just become better at using his werewolf abilities. While in human form, they seem to have no extra strength, but do retain some of their heightened senses like hearing, sight, and probably smell. These werewolves have one weakness: silver. Regular weapons will hurt but usually not kill a Lycan due to their advanced healing abilities. Some of the healing abilities do carry over to human form, as we see Lawrence heal extremely fast from his werewolf attack wounds. They are weak to silver, but can be killed if you can damage them beyond their healing abilities, like when Lawrence killed his father with his claws. However, Maleva says that only someone who loves him can set him free. I'm not exactly sure what set him free means, because the cure for this curse is a silver bullet and you're dead. Not much of a cure. Also, if Lawrence was able to kill his father, does that mean he loved him? I guess so. Or, possibly if you're killed by someone who doesn't love you, then your soul won't be at rest. At the end of the movie, Hugo Weaving is bit, and before the credits you hear howling, alluding to him becoming the new Wolfman. He even takes the wolf head cane from Talbot Hall. I really wish I knew the story behind this cane. Unfortunately, because the movie did poorly in the box office, they scrapped the idea of continuing. Well, that's my video about the Wolfman. This isn't the best werewolf movie out there, but I think it got a bad reputation from its production problems before the movie even came out, which probably swayed some critics. The actors put on great performances, and it was just the story that faltered a bit in certain areas, probably due to the rewrites, reshoots, and change of directors. Regardless, I still enjoy this movie, and if you haven't seen it, I'd still recommend it because it's worth a watch. If there's any other movies or TV shows you'd like me to cover, leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and maybe subscribe if you haven't. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.